The summons came directly from High Command, encrypted with security codes Zexthera had never seen before. Emergency session. All fleet commanders. Priority Alpha clearance required. When he arrived at Coalition headquarters on Nexus Prime, the massive station's corridors buzzed with barely contained panic. Officers from a dozen species hurried past, their body language screaming crisis regardless of their biology. The briefing room contained every major military leader in Coalition space. Admiral Korthax of the Vorthic Crystal Fleet, General Hyvex representing the Kresh swarm mines, Commander Nexus Prime 7 from the Machine Collective. And in a small cluster near the back, the humans, Fleet Admiral Harrison sat quietly among his staff, displaying that same unsettling calm that Zexthera had learned to associate with imminent catastrophe. "The situation is catastrophic," announced Supreme Commander Zelix, the ancient ethereal who led Coalition forces. His translucent form flickered with stress patterns. Hegemony High Command has issued what they call the final protocol. The holographic display activated, showing fleet movements across 3 spiral arms. Red indicators marked hegemony forces, and there were far too many of them. Intelligence reports indicate they are mobilizing every available ship, Zelix continued. Every reserve fleet. Every construction yard is working maximum shifts. They are preparing what appears to be a final assault on Coalition space. Admiral Korthax's crystalline form chimed with concern. "What triggered this escalation? Our recent victories should have encouraged negotiation." "Our recent victories are exactly what triggered this," replied Intelligence Director Vorthak, a member of Korthax's species. "Specifically, our alliance with humanity." All eyes turned toward the human delegation. Harrison's expression remained neutral, but Zexthera noticed something in the human's posture, a slight tension that suggested he had been expecting this moment. "The hegemony's internal communications are clear," Vorthak continued. "They consider humans an existential threat to galactic order. Quote, a species that fights without honor, kills without glory, and wins through deception represents a corruption that will spread to all civilized races." End quote. "They're afraid of us," said Colonel Chun matter-of-factly. "Terrified would be more accurate," Vorthak corrected. "Hegemony psychological profiles on humans classify your species as—" He paused, checking his datapad. "Apex predators disguised as peaceful herbivores." Several Coalition officers shifted uncomfortably. After witnessing human tactical methods firsthand, many were beginning to share the hegemony's concerns. "The final protocol calls for total human extinction," Zelix announced. "Not conquest. Not subjugation. Complete biological elimination. Every human world, every human ship, every human individual is to be destroyed." "They're planning genocide," General Hyvex buzzed through his translator. "Even by hegemony standards, this is unprecedented." Supreme Commander Zelix manipulated the display, showing enemy force concentrations. 7,000 capital ships, 40,000 support vessels, battle stations capable of cracking planets. They intend to sterilize human space, then continue until no human DNA exists anywhere in the galaxy. The briefing room fell silent. Even species that had fought wars for millennia were shocked by the scope of the planned atrocity. "What are their numbers versus our combined fleets?" asked Admiral Korthax. "We can field approximately 3,000 capital ships," Zelix replied. "The numerical disadvantage is insurmountable through conventional tactics." "Evacuation?" suggested Commander Nexus Prime 7. "Human civilians could be relocated to Coalition worlds until—" "There are 8 billion humans across 57 worlds," Harrison interrupted quietly. "Evacuation isn't possible in the time we have." "Then we fight," declared General Hyvex. "Honor demands, honor will get everyone killed," Harrison said. And his calm tone somehow made the words more chilling than if he had shouted them. Admiral Harrison stood, moving to the holographic display. For the first time since Zexthera had met him, the human looked truly serious. The polite diplomatic mask had fallen away, revealing something underneath that made several Coalition officers step back unconsciously. "Supreme Commander, with your permission, I'd like to present an alternative strategy." Zelix gestured agreement. Any suggestions would be welcome. Harrison manipulated the display, and suddenly the tactical situation looked completely different. Instead of showing defensive positions around human space, the display highlighted hegemony supply lines, industrial centers, and command structures. The hegemony is mobilizing every ship they have for this attack, Harrison began. That means they've stripped defenses from everywhere else. Their core worlds, their manufacturing centers, their command networks all vulnerable. You're suggesting we abandon the defense of human space? Zexthera asked. I'm suggesting we make them abandon their attack, Harrison replied. Colonel? Chun stepped forward, activating a new set of displays. Hegemony industrial capacity depends on 17 key systems. Their command structure relies on centralized communications through 12 hub stations. Their political stability requires maintaining control of their conquered populations across 93 worlds. We can't attack all of those targets simultaneously, Admiral Korthax protested. We lack the ships. We don't need ships, said Captain Vasquez. We need 40 volunteers and the right equipment. Over the next hour, the humans outlined a plan so audacious that several coalition officers accused them of insanity. No massive fleet battles. No desperate last stands. Instead, they proposed to destroy the hegemony's ability to wage war by targeting their civilization's essential infrastructure. You want to infiltrate their core worlds and sabotage their industrial base? Zexthera summarized. While their entire fleet is attacking human space. Not sabotage, Webb corrected. Liberation. The plan was elegant in its scope. While hegemony fleets devastated human colonies, small human teams would infiltrate conquered worlds and incite widespread rebellion. They would destroy industrial facilities that produced warships. They would eliminate the command networks that coordinated hegemony forces. Most importantly, they would convince the hegemony's subject populations that their oppressors had left them defenseless. The psychological impact will be devastating, Webb explained. Hegemony civilization is built on the concept of overwhelming strength. When their subjects realize that strength has been deployed elsewhere, leaving them vulnerable, revolutions will spread faster than they can respond, Chun concluded. But your own worlds will be destroyed, General Hyvex pointed out. 8 billion human lives will be lost. Not all of them, Harrison said quietly. We're not planning to abandon human space entirely. He activated a final display that showed human fleet positions. Instead of the expected defensive formations around populated worlds, human ships were scattered across empty space in seemingly random patterns. We're going to give them exactly what they want, Harrison continued. Target-rich environments full of human ships to destroy. Except the ships they'll be attacking won't contain humans. Automated vessels? Supreme Commander Zelix asked. Decoys, Harrison confirmed. Remotely piloted from hidden command ships. When the hegemony fleet arrives at our worlds, they'll find massive human formations ready to fight. They'll engage what appears to be desperate last stands, destroying thousands of ships while taking heavy casualties themselves. And while they're busy fighting phantoms, your infiltration teams will be destroying their civilization, Zexthera realized. Not destroying, Harrison corrected. Liberating. Every world the hegemony conquered. Every species they enslaved. Every industrial center they built on the backs of subject populations. We're going to convince all of them that their masters have abandoned them to pursue a xenocidal war. The scope of the plan was staggering. The humans intended to turn the hegemony's strength against itself by exploiting the fundamental weakness of all. Oppressive empires, they required more energy to maintain control than their subjects required to resist. This is not warfare, Admiral Korthax declared. This is ... Evolution, Harrison finished. For 50,000 years, my species learned that you don't defeat a stronger predator by matching its strength. You defeat it by changing the environment until strength becomes a disadvantage. Over the following weeks, Zexthera watched the human plan unfold with growing amazement and horror. Human infiltration teams, no more than 4 people each, disappeared into hegemony space like ghosts. Coalition forces repositioned according to human instructions, though most commanders didn't understand their roles in the larger strategy. The hegemony fleet arrived at human space exactly as predicted. 7,000 capital ships, the largest military force ever assembled. Prepared to exterminate an entire species, they found human fleets waiting for them. Massive formations that fought with desperate courage, protecting colonies and industrial centers. Epic battles raged across a dozen systems as humanity apparently made their final stand against impossible odds. The hegemony forces were too focused on their genocidal mission to notice the inconsistencies. Human ships that fought too perfectly, taking risks no living crew would accept. Defensive formations that never broke or retreated even when tactically sound. Communications chatter that repeated certain phrases too frequently. 3 weeks after the hegemony fleet's destruction, Commander Zexthera received orders that made his blood chill. Intelligence had located the enemy's main staging base in the Kephalon Nebula, a fortress built inside a hollowed-out asteroid that had resisted coalition forces for 2 years. Previous assault attempts had resulted in catastrophic losses. The base's location inside the nebula made long-range sensors useless, and its defensive systems could destroy entire fleets. Command wanted him to take a joint task force and eliminate it. The human contingent would, of course, be included. Admiral Harrison met him in the briefing room aboard the Eternal Vigilance. This time, the human wasn't alone. 3 other humans accompanied him, each wearing different uniform markings that Zexthera didn't recognize. "Commander, I'd like you to meet my staff," Harrison said. "Colonel Sarah Chun, our infiltration specialist. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb, psychological operations. And Captain Elena Vasquez, what we call our creative solutions expert." Zexthera studied each human carefully. They all shared that same unsettling quality he'd noticed in Harrison. They looked soft and harmless, but something in their eyes suggested otherwise. "The target is heavily fortified," Zexthera began, activating the holographic display. The Kephalon base appeared in 3 dimensions, bristling with defense platforms and shield generators. Intelligence estimates 12,000 enemy personnel, including elite Vorthek crystal guards and Kresh warrior breeds. Previous attempts to assault this position have failed because everyone keeps trying to assault it, interrupted Colonel Chun. Her voice carried the same calm confidence as Harrison's, but with something else underneath. Something that sounded almost amused. "The base has withstood bombardment from Dreadnought-class vessels," Zexthera protested. "Its shields can deflect planet-killer weapons. How else would you suggest we proceed?" "We don't," said Captain Vasquez. "We let them come to us." The concept made no sense to Zexthera. "The base is stationary, built into an asteroid. It cannot move." "The base can't move," agreed Lieutenant Commander Webb. "But the people inside it can, and will once we give them the right motivation." Over the next hour, the humans outlined a plan so audacious that Zexthera questioned their sanity. No frontal assault. No siege tactics. Instead, they intended to make the hegemony forces abandon their impregnable fortress willingly. "You want to fake a plague outbreak?" Zexthera's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. "Not fake," Harrison corrected. "We want to convince them that a plague outbreak is inevitable unless they evacuate immediately." Colonel Chun leaned forward. "Commander, how long can your species survive in hard vacuum? Without protective gear?" "Perhaps 30 seconds before losing consciousness." "Vorthek?" "Similar. Their crystal bodies are resilient, but they require atmosphere." "Kresh?" "Somewhat longer, but still measured in minutes." "Humans can survive in vacuum for nearly 2 minutes while remaining conscious," Chun said matter-of-factly. "We can hold our breath for extended periods, and our bodies handle pressure changes better than most species. These aren't advantages in normal combat, but they become advantages when you change the rules." Webb added. The plan they described violated every principle of civilized warfare that Zexthera knew. No direct engagement. No honor duels between commanders. Instead, The humans intended to use deception, misdirection, and pure psychological manipulation to achieve victory. Your coalition fleet will make a standard approach, Harrison explained. Demand surrender, exchange token fire with their outer defenses, then retreat when they refuse. Standard siege protocol. While you do what? Hunt, said Vasquez, and Zexthera noticed that all 4 humans smiled at once. The operation began exactly as planned. Zexthera's fleet approached the HFY base and transmitted surrender demands. The hegemony commander, a Vorthic crystal lord named Kethrix, responded with predictable defiance. His fortress was impregnable. He had supplies for years. Let the coalition waste their lives against his defenses. The first wave of coalition fighters attacked the outer defensive ring, taking heavy casualties before retreating. A second wave followed, then a third. Each assault looked desperate, poorly coordinated. To any observer, it appeared the coalition was throwing lives away in futile attacks. What they couldn't see were the human infiltration teams moving through the nebula. Ghost 1 in position, reported Chen over the communications. Array. Ghost 2 ready, added Webb. Ghost 3. Standing by, confirmed Vasquez.zex. Thera watched his tactical display but saw nothing. The human teams were invisible to his sensors, moving through the nebula like shadows. Beginning Phase 1, Harrison announced, over the next 6 hours. Strange things began happening to the Kephalon base. Communication arrays malfunctioned. Sensor clusters went offline for no apparent reason. Life support systems in outer sections began reporting errors. Probably nebula interference, the hegemony forces concluded. The Kephalon Nebula was known for its electromagnetic properties. Then bodies started appearing. The first was a crash guard found floating near the asteroid's surface. Medical analysis suggested equipment failure. His breathing apparatus had malfunctioned. Tragic, but these things happened. The second body was discovered 12 hours later. Another equipment failure, but this time on a different type of breathing gear. Concerning Dot, by the third day, 17 hegemony personnel had been found dead in space around the base, all from apparent equipment failures. Different species, different gear, but the same result. Nebulas affecting all our systems, the base's medical officer reported to Commander Kethrix. Some kind of electromagnetic pulse that's disrupting life support. Increase patrols, Kethrix ordered. Check all equipment twice. What he didn't know was that each malfunction was carefully staged. Colonel Chen and her teams were hunting individual guards, making kills look like accidents, then leaving bodies where they would be found. The psychological effect was devastating. Phase 2, Harrison announced. Lieutenant Commander Webb activated systems that Zexthera hadn't known existed aboard human ships. Suddenly, the coalition communication networks filled with panicked messages that appeared to be coming from other coalition bases. Mayday, Mayday, this is Outpost Gamma 7. Unknown contagion spreading through the crew. Quarantine protocols have failed. Requesting immediate evacuation. All ships avoid the Corlin system. Biological agent confirmed. Death rate 96%. No known cure. Warning to all coalition forces, Kephalon Nebula may be contaminated. Crew members exposed to nebula particles showing signs of respiratory failure. The messages were completely fabricated but sounded authentic enough to fool enemy intelligence. Within hours, hegemony forces were picking up these transmissions and drawing their own conclusions. A plague was spreading through coalition space, and its origin point appeared to be the Kephalon Nebula. Sir, the base's intelligence officer reported to Commander Kethrix, coalition communications suggest a biological outbreak. Ships are avoiding this entire sector. Good, Kethrix replied. Less interference with our operations. But doubt had been planted. When the 20th hegemony crew member died from equipment failure, medical officers began wondering if there might be another explanation. When atmospheric processors in the base's outer sections began reporting unusual particle concentrations, engineers started asking uncomfortable questions. Captain. Vasquez initiated Phase 3. Human infiltration teams began, introducing harmless but detectable biological agents into the base's air recycling systems. Nothing dangerous, just marker proteins that would show up on medical scanners and look suspiciously like the beginning stages of a contagion. Commander Kethrix, the base medical officer transmitted, his voice tight with fear. We have a problem. I'm detecting unknown biological agents in 17 different sections. The pattern suggests airborne transmission. Is it connected to the equipment failures? I believe so, sir. Early stages of infection might cause disorientation, leading to mistakes with life support gear. The lie was elegant in its simplicity. The humans had created all the evidence for a plague outbreak without actually releasing any dangerous organisms. Fear and paranoia did the rest. How long before the infection spreads throughout the base? Kethrix demanded. Unknown, sir. Without proper research facilities, we can't develop countermeasures. If this is the same agent affecting coalition forces, evacuation protocols, Kethrix ordered. Immediate withdrawal to secondary bases. Zexthera watched in amazement as the impregnable Kephalan fortress began emptying itself. Transports launched continuously, carrying personnel and critical supplies to safety. The base's defenders abandoned their positions willingly, convinced they were fleeing certain death. All coalition ships maintain distance, Harrison broadcast on open frequencies. Biological contamination confirmed. Do not approach evacuating vessels. Even this was psychological manipulation. By appearing afraid of the plague themselves, the humans made their deception more believable. Within 72 hours, the Kephalan base stood empty. 2 years of coalition siege warfare had failed to achieve what the humans accomplished in 3 days. Congratulations, Commander, Harrison said as the last enemy transport fled the nebula. The base is yours. But the plague, there is no plague? Commander Zexthera had seen 17 different species wage war across the Andromeda spiral. The crystalline Vorthak with their energy shields that could deflect plasma cannon fire. The insectoid Kresh swarms that moved like liquid death across battlefields. The mechanical nexus units that felt no pain and fought until their power cores died. Each species brought something unique to galactic warfare, something that made them formidable in their own terrifying way. But humans? The newest addition to the Galactic Defense Coalition looked like soft, pink creatures that would break if you squeezed them too hard. These are our new allies? Zexthera clicked his mandibles in what his species considered polite skepticism. Through the viewport of the command cruiser Eternal Vigilance, he watched the human fleet take position. Their ships looked wrong somehow. Where other species built vessels that proclaimed their power through size and obvious weaponry, human ships seemed almost modest, gray. Angular things that looked more like industrial equipment than instruments of war. Fleet Admiral Harrison, the human representative, stood beside him on the bridge. The creature barely reached Zexthera's chest plates and looked like it had been built from spare parts. No natural armor, no claws, no visible weapons, just soft skin and strange fur growing only on the top of its head. I know what you're thinking, Harrison said, and Zexthera was startled that the human could read his body language so easily. We don't look like much. Your species has only been in space for 200 cycles, Zexthera replied, trying to keep his tone diplomatic. Perhaps this battle would be better suited for veteran species. The hegemony forces approaching this system include Vorthak crystal ships and Kresh warrior pods. Very dangerous opponents. Harrison smiled, showing small, flat teeth that looked utterly useless for combat. Commander, with respect, we didn't ask to join this fight because we needed protection. We're here because you need us. Before Zexthera could process that statement, alarms began sounding across the bridge. Tactical displays lit up with red indicators as enemy ships dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge. The hegemony had arrived in force. 12 Vorthak crystal ships, their faceted hulls gleaming like cut diamonds, each one capable of leveling a planet. Behind them came the Kresh swarm carriers, dark organic shapes that pulsed like living hearts. Enemy count, 47 combat vessels, reported Lieutenant Vexmar from the sensor station. Projected casualties for defending fleet, 68%. Zexthera felt his combat glands release stress hormones. Those numbers meant most of them would die here, but they had to hold this system. The mining colonies below contained rare elements that powered half the Coalition's defensive networks. All ships assumed defensive formation Theta 7, Zexthera commanded. Around them, Coalition vessels moved into the traditional battle formation that had served for 1,000 years. Heavy cruisers at the front to absorb damage, destroyers on the flanks to harass enemy formations, fighters spreading in a protective screen. The human ships didn't move. "Admiral Harrison," Zexthera said carefully, "your fleet appears to be out of position." "No, sir," Harrison replied, still wearing that strange smile. "We're exactly where we need to be." The Hegemony fleet advanced in their own time-tested formation. Vorthek crystal ships leading, their energy shields already shimmering to life. The Coalition fleet began long-range bombardment, streams of plasma and then particle beams lancing out across the void. Most shots splashed harmlessly against Vorthak shields or were absorbed by Kresh. Bio-armor. Then something impossible happened. The human ship simply dotted. Zexthera-S. Sensor operator frantically adjusted controls. "Sir, I've lost the human fleet on all sensors." "Cloaking technology?" Zexthera had heard rumors that humans had developed some form of stealth systems, but nothing that should work against military-grade sensors. "Negative, sir. It's like they're just done." For 3 minutes, the battle proceeded normally. Coalition forces traded fire with the Hegemony fleet, both sides maneuvering for advantage. The Vorthak ships advanced steadily, their crystal hulls shrugging off most incoming fire. Kresh swarm pods began launching, thousands of organic fighters spreading like infection across space. Then the rearmost Hegemony ship simply exploded, not from any visible weapon fire, not from missile impact. The massive Kresh carrier just came apart from the inside, pieces of biohull spinning away into space. Before Zexthera could process what had happened, another ship died. Then another. "What's causing those explosions?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. I'm detecting no weapon signatures, no incoming fire. They're just dying." A cold understanding began creeping up Zexthera's spine. The human ships hadn't retreated or hidden. They had done something else entirely. Something that his species' military doctrine had never considered, because it should have been impossible. Admiral Harrison spoke into his communication device, the words calm and professional. "Ghost 7, this is Overwatch. You're clear for Phase 2? Copy Overwatch? Beginning hunting protocol." "Hunting protocol?" The word sent ice through Zexthera's circulatory system on the tactical display. Chaos erupted in the Hegemony formation. Ships began firing wildly into empty space. Others broke formation, trying to flee something they couldn't see. A Vorthek crystal ship's shields flared and died, then the ship itself cracked like glass and went dark. "Commander," his sensor operator called out, voice tight with something between awe and terror. "I'm picking up brief energy signatures. Just glimpses. The human ships. They're inside the enemy formation? Inside. Not engaging from a distance like civilized species. Not maintaining formation and trading fire in organized battle lines. The humans had somehow moved through space undetected and were killing enemy ships from within their own ranks. How is this possible?" "Zexthera whispered," Harrison answered, and his voice carried something that made every alien on the bridge step back unconsciously. "Commander, your species have been fighting the same way for millennia. Stand off. Exchange fire. May the better technology win. It's predictable. Honorable, even. Another Kresh ship died, its biohull peeling away in strips. Humans learned warfare differently. We spent 50,000 years hunting things that could kill us in our sleep. We learned that the most dangerous predator isn't the biggest or strongest. It's the one you never see coming." As if responding to his words, a human ship suddenly appeared on the tactical display. It materialized directly beneath a Vorthak crystal ship and fired a single shot into what Zexthera realized must be a weak point in the crystal matrix. The massive hegemony vessel shattered like dropped glass. Then the human ship vanished again. Your stealth technology, Zextira began. Isn't stealth, Harrison interrupted. It's patience. It's knowing when to move and when to wait. It's understanding that your enemy can't fight what they can't predict. The hegemony fleet was disintegrating, not from superior firepower or better shields, but from pure terror. Ships fled in random directions. Others fired on their own allies, afraid that every shadow might hide a human vessel. Coalition fleet. Advance and mop up scattered resistance, Zexthira ordered automatically. Though his mind was reeling, the battle was over. The humans had won it without losing a single ship, without firing more than a handful of shots. They had turned a desperate defense into a complete victory simply by refusing to fight the way everyone expected. Admiral Harrison turned to leave the bridge, then paused. Commander, you asked why every race fears us. Want to know the real reason? Zextira nodded, not trusting his voice. Every other species in the galaxy fights wars. Humans? We don't fight wars, Commander. We hunt, and once we start hunting something. Harrison's smile returned, but now Zexthira understood what he saw in it. It wasn't friendliness or diplomatic politeness. It was the expression of a predator that had just shown its prey exactly how outmatched they were. Once we start hunting, we don't stop until the prey is extinct. As the human admiral left the bridge, Zexthira stared at the tactical display. Floating debris was all that remained of one of the largest hegemony fleets ever assembled. Destroyed not through technology or numbers, but through something far more terrifying. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had demonstrated that every assumption about warfare that the galaxy had held for thousands of years was wrong. Every formation, every strategy, every tactical doctrine became useless when your enemy refused to follow the rules. For the first time in his military career, Commander Zexthira understood what real fear felt like. And somewhere in the void around him, human ships moved through space like invisible death. Hunting for any hegemony survivors, the coalition had gained powerful allies today. But as Zexthira watched human fighters emerge from nowhere to finish off damaged enemy vessels, he wondered if they had actually gained something much more dangerous. Masters.